So for the first time in 12 years, Aliko Dangote is being dethroned as the richest man in Africa by a South African. And now, what actually happened to Dangote? Dangote just between November 2023 and now has lost a whopping about $4 billion, close to $4 billion, right? Between November and now. So what happened to Dangote? Also, Bua Cement has lost a lot. In short, Bua, Mike Adenuga, all the top 10 richest men in Nigeria and in Africa at large have all lost huge amount of money. What is happening? I'll tell you what is happening now. The list of the top 10 richest men, and then I'll tell you what happened to them, how much they've lost individually, and exactly what is happening right now. If you are wise enough to pay attention, you will learn one or two so that you can be safe, because something is happening and is affecting you, though you don't know, but you will know right now. Listen. So for the top 10 richest men, number one is John Rupert and family, who is now worth $10.3 billion. Aliko Dangote, $9.5 billion. Nikki Opin, whatever, and family is now worth 8.3. Nasef Sori is 7.4. Abdul Samad Rabiu, our own Rabiu of Bua, is now worth $5.9 billion. Nathan Kesh, $5.8 billion. Isad Rebrab and family, $4.6 billion. Mohammed Mansour, $3.6 billion. Naguib Sauris, $3.3 billion. Then Mike Adenuga of Glo, our own Mike Adenuga of Globacom, is now worth $3.1 billion. I'll tell you the nightmare here. As at November, Aliko Dangote was worth $30.5 billion. And today he's worth 9.5. Mike Adenuga, as at November, was worth $6.3 billion. Today he's worth 3.1. He has lost more than 50% of his net worth. Rabiu was worth $7.6 billion in November. Today he's worth $5.7 billion. This same man, who is the richest man in Africa today, was worth 11.8 or thereabouts billion dollars in November, but today he is worth $10.3 billion. What is happening? See, you must now understand the reality on ground. And the reality on ground right now is that a lot of things has happened to this world recently, and the world has not fully recovered. While we have majority of the fault from our side, like based on some kind of harsh economic policies that we've made that have affected our own people back home here. Like, for example, you as an individual, as at 2 years ago, if you had 10 million naira in your account, do you know that if that 10 million naira is still in your account cash, you did not withdraw 1 naira from it, by now you still have 10 million naira. But you know, as at that 2 years ago, if you check your net worth in dollars, you were worth maybe about $20,000. But today, if you check your net worth in dollars, you are worth about $8,000. So you see how much you've lost in value for just keeping naira in your bank. So number one is this. What am I trying to point out? These billionaires, they invest their money in different commodities. When I made the investigation into the South African guy, it was reported that most of he deals on some luxury stuff, like kind of, and people are now prioritizing, you know, into necessity, what they need. People no longer want to buy what they want. They buy what they need because there is global inflation. So people are losing buying power. Now, when people lose buying power, what they do is that they shrink. They narrow down to what they need. So which you come to the world today, the basic necessity of man, food, shelter, and then clothing. So some of the commodities that are still very viable in the market today is these three things. Then you come to think of energy, like electricity, petrol. These are the things that are still very viable in the market today. So most of these men, they will still bounce back. I can assure you they'll bounce back in a short while. But because they've invested their money in different companies, and most of those companies are shutting down, most of them are no longer doing well. See, the things that has happened to, like, the Ukraine war in Gaza. Do you know that the war happening in Gaza is affecting me and you directly or indirectly, as the case may be? Because right now, do you know that vessels no longer travel freely around the corridors of the Red Sea. They now hijack vessels there, burn vessels, and destroy people's goods and all of that. So insurance companies will lose money. A lot of companies. So these things will drive the price of things up, and then it will drive inflations. It will force inflation to shoot up across the world, and this whole thing will end up affecting the global economy, and we might be headed to the same thing that we had in 2008, which is global recession. And when this happens, nobody is spared. Everybody bears the brunt. So for now, as a common man, having understood why these men are losing money today, considering the fact that they've invested in so many commodities that people no longer want to maybe buy, and then the companies that run these things are losing value in their shares, that indirectly affecting their investors, which are some of these men I just mentioned for you. So this is part of the reason why they are losing money. Then coupled with their own domestic government economic policies, you understand? Like now, as a common man, what do you do to be safe? Why the rich men today are investing in vintage vehicles, things that, like cars that don't hardly lose value, or that actually does not lose value. Some invest in Swiss currency, some invest in Swiss gold, some invest in expensive wristwatches like Richard Miller's and the rest of them. Some invest in gold, some invest in diamonds, some invest in real estate. You, where do you invest? Knowing fully well that if you don't save your money, you keep it in the bank, it is losing value every minute because of the inflation. Where are you putting your money now? Quickly now, go and remove your money from the bank, the one you're not using for your business, and go and use it to buy a piece of land. Even if it's quarter plot in your village, even if it's 250k, look for a land that it can afford. Buy it and keep it, than keeping that money, rather than keep the money in the bank. Every minute that money loses value. But if it's on land, that land will protect the value of that money for you until the world has bounced back from the economic shackles it is facing right now. That's just a simple thing.